You know, what if I told you that the real difference between a life of financial struggle and a life of total freedom isn't some crazy lottery win or huge promotion? What if it's just a single, tiny action you take every day? Today, we're going to break down the atomic law of wealth, this really powerful idea that shows how the smallest habits, seriously, can build the biggest fortunes. Because really, it all boils down to this, doesn't it? A life where you're constantly feeling that financial pressure, or one where you have true, genuine freedom. The path to that freedom, well, it often seems super complex, maybe even completely out of reach. But what if it's way, way simpler and much more in our control than we think? Okay, I know what you're thinking. This sounds a little over the top, right? Maybe even a little bit like clickbait. But just stick with me here, because we're about to unpack exactly how one small, 30-minute daily habit can be the real, measurable difference between those two completely different lives. To really get why this works, we first have to totally dismantle the biggest myth out there. And that's the idea of the big brick. Honestly, this is the mindset that keeps most people stuck, just waiting around for something that, let's be real, is probably never going to come. So you've really got two completely different ways of thinking here. On one side, there's the lottery mindset. This is totally passive. You're just hoping for that one lucky break, the winning ticket, the stock that goes to the moon. But the atomic mindset, that's the complete opposite. It's active, it's consistent. It's all about small, steady growth that you and only you are in complete control of every single day. So if that lottery mindset is basically a dead end, what's the alternative? Well, this brings us right to the core idea of this whole explainer, the atomic law. This is the fundamental rule that actually governs how real, lasting wealth gets built. And here it is. The atomic law of wealth is all about small, consistent actions that compound over time. Now, the most important part of that whole sentence is the end, massive, nonlinear results. What that means is the outcome isn't just a little bigger than your effort. No, it's exponentially bigger. The results you get on day 500 are wildly, ridiculously out of proportion to the results you got back on day 5. So, how massive are we talking? Just look at this number. If you get just 1% better at something every single day, you won't be 365% better at the end of the year. Nope, because of the incredible power of compounding, where each day's tiny growth builds on the last, you end up almost 37 times better. That's not just growth. That is an explosion of progress. It's the difference between walking up a small hill and launching a rocket into space. That 37x number, it might seem a little abstract, kind of hard to wrap your head around. So let's make it super concrete. In this next section, we're going to look at what this magic of compounding actually looks like in the real world, step by step. Okay, so on day 1, you start, you're motivated, and nothing really happens. A month goes by, you're still doing it, but you see pretty much no visible results. Now, this is what some people call the valley of disappointment. It's where our brains, which crave instant results, tell us this isn't working. And this is the exact moment most people quit. But if you can just push through that, that's where the magic starts. Your tiny efforts finally begin to compound, creating real, tangible momentum that builds and builds towards that financial freedom we were talking about. And that right there is exactly why we call them atomic habits. Think about it, right? An atom is this invisible building block that by itself seems completely insignificant. But you get enough of them together, and they build, well, everything we see and touch. These small, consistent habits are just like that. They are the fundamental particles of your entire financial future. They seem tiny and insignificant alone, but together they build everything. Okay, so we've covered the myth, we've unpacked the law, and we've walked through the process. So now let's turn this from a cool idea into your personal action plan. It is time to find your very first atomic habit. So let's make this real for you right now. Just take a second. What is the one tiny 30-minute habit you could start tomorrow that would set this incredibly powerful law in motion in your own life? And hey, if you're stuck, don't worry. Think of these as just some starting points. Each one of these is like planting a seed. Reading one chapter on investing, you're planting the seed of financial literacy. Researching a side hustle, you're planting the seed of entrepreneurship. Learning a new skill online, that's the seed of higher earning potential. Any one of these, if you do it consistently, is more than enough to start that compounding process. Your entire financial future isn't going to be defined by one big lucky break. It's going to be built piece by piece, by the small, powerful atoms you choose to put in place, starting today. So I'll leave you with this. What empire will you build?